how can I tell when God is trying to bless me because I don't want to block my blessing? And one of the many things that we do as men in this particular society, as people in this particular society, one of the things we do, and this applies to men and women, and not just in relationships, but in every facet of life, we tend to block our own blessing. And how do you block your blessing? You block your blessing by not getting out of God's way and letting him do what he wants to do. Now, join me for tomorrow's show and we'll talk about things that you do, the top 5 things that we do to block our blessings. But today we're going to talk about ways to tell God is trying to bless you, because if you don't know God is blessing you, then you're not going to even know there are no blessings to block, right? Here's the first thing that you know. The thing that you're doing starts to slow down or go wrong. I mean, it was good. I mean, it was ready. It was good to go. And suddenly it starts to slow down. It starts to not do as well as it was doing. Your effort didn't change. As a matter of fact, when you start slowing down, you start even trying to ramp up your effort even more. You were giving 110%, you try to give 115, but nothing you do seems to be helping the situation. This is a slippery slope because in our minds, we try to tell ourselves that this is just a downtime. We're not working as hard. Something we're doing is wrong. Like we're not handling the business we need to handle. This is what we try to tell ourselves. We try to convince ourselves that this thing that we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing forever. That's why I don't think in terms of forever. Relationships, I don't think forever. Financial opportunities, I don't think forever. Dieting, I don't think forever. Living in one place, I don't think forever. So what you have to do is make sure you don't waste your focus and energy trying to save something that you no longer truly desire. Because here's the thing that happens. Most times when something starts to slow down or go astray or go awry or go wrong, we don't even truly desire that thing the way we once truly did. Now, we may still desire the benefits of it. We may still desire the financial benefits, the connection benefits, the popularity benefits. We may desire all of those things, but you have to make sure that every day you wake up, you are doing something, the thing that you desire, or the things, if you will, because you're not limited to doing one thing that you desire, but you have to make sure that you're doing something you desire. If you wake up beside a woman every morning, you have to make sure that you desire to wake up beside that woman. If you're a woman, you make up beside a man every morning, you have to make sure that you desire that man you're waking up beside. Desire is one of the greatest things in the world as long as your desire doesn't become love. Another thing, you got to remember that God will bless the righteous with the desires of your heart. Not the desires of your body now, not the desires of your loins, the desires of your heart. And you know how they say, hey man, you got to do what your heart is in. If your heart isn't in it anymore, you got to go. I'll give you a perfect example. Lawrence Taylor, greatest linebacker ever played the game. There'll never be another linebacker like him because he is the reason that they created the 4-3 defense. His coach, Bill Parcells, told him, at the moment, you don't have the heart to jump in the pile anymore. Quit the game. And he says he remembered the game. I think he said he was playing against the Cleveland Browns. And say the ball hit the turf and everybody was going at it. And he ran and he just stopped and said, man, oh, forget that. And that was his last season. He retired. When your heart isn't in it, you have to let it go. You can't stay dedicated to something that your heart isn't in, because the desires of your heart are what motivate you more than anything. More than anything. As long as you're focused on being the best spiritual version of yourself. Now, if you're just focused on being the best worldly version of yourself and you don't care, you just want to enjoy all of the things of the world that feel good and make you feel good and make you think highly of yourself, okay, fine. That's something else. We're not talking about that. And we're not talking to you unless you're ready to make a transition in your life. So remember, if you lose the desire to do something, think about what it is you desire to do and open your eyes and see if God is trying to bless you with that thing. Another thing, you notice long-term relationships are changing for the worst. They're changing for the worst, man. People who've been around forever, family, friends, long-term relationships, they start to change for the worst. Some of you have some of those relationships in your life right now. They are changing for the worst. You don't understand it. You're looking at it. You're like, well, wait a minute. Well, what's going on? You're trying to fix it. You're trying to fix the relationship. I don't fix relationships. When relationships falter, it is because it's time for that relationship to be done. I make sure that I'm the man I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do, and I'm being the version of myself that can find grace in the sight of the Most High. And after that, if relationships falter, it is because it's time for them to be done. That's why I tell you men and warn you men about emotional attachment. As a man, you're the leader of the family, leader of the community, leader of the world. You cannot be driven by emotionality. And I'm gonna be honest with you now, I'm not gonna make light of this because it's one of the hardest decisions that you're ever gonna make. One of the hardest decisions you're ever gonna make is to let go of people you know and love. That's the hardest thing to do, man. It keeps you in situations that drive you crazy. It keeps you in situations that stress you out so bad, man, you start having heart palpitations. And you know that you need to have those people out of your life. You know you need to transition to another level of life, to another area of life, and move away from these people. But it's hard to do because why? Because the familiarity is there. The worldly version of us likes familiar things. And later on, we'll get into why that's not always a good thing. And most times it's not a good thing. See, everyone's not meant to go with you to the promised land of your life. There's a promised land in all of our lives. You got to make it to that promised land. But everybody's not meant to go there with you. Everybody's not going to go there with you. Some people you want to go there with you just aren't intended to go there with you, and they never were. They never were intended to go there with you. And you got to accept that. You got to embrace the fact that some of those people were not meant to go there with you. You have two choices. You can either let those people go and move on in the direction you need to be going, or you can keep those people and stay where you are. Because if God doesn't intend for them to go to a level with you, as long as they're with you, you're not going to that level. I tell people this all the time. If you look up 10 years later and everybody around you looks the same, then you haven't gone anywhere. You haven't progressed very far. You understand? You haven't made it far. You're probably still in the exact same position, but you're too busy focusing on the things of the world to know that you need to be transitioning and moving on. Another thing, God's love and man's love are not always compatible in your life. When I say man, I mean men and women, mankind. God's love and man's love are not always compatible in your life because sometimes God is always pulling you into a positive direction. And sometimes the love of men, the love of women, the love of children, the love of family, the love of friends, it will pull you away from God because the love of man tends to be selfish. It's always going to be self serving based on what benefit they can get from it. Sometimes the love is gone, but the actions of that love that keep you at bay or keep your logic at bay, keep you continuing to focus on those people who don't mean you any good, they'll continue those actions. You know what I'm saying? So you got to remember, man, that sometimes God is pulling you away from those people because they don't have the spiritual wherewithal to deserve to be on that next level with you. You understand what I'm saying? Positive people and opportunities start to arrive from places unknown. You see what I'm saying? Most times, the people who are in your life now have done all that they can do as far as positive opportunities, positive experiences, positive connection, because they're on that level where they are for a reason. More than likely, a person that's been around you for an extended period of time, your connections to the next level of life aren't going to come from them. So, positive people coming from positive people and opportunities coming from places unknown simply means this: God doesn't reserve your blessings to only come in via people, places, and things you're familiar with. I don't really care what you're familiar with. You got a place He wants you to go. If you want to go there, then you got to be willing sometimes to go to places unknown. You got to be willing to do things unknown. You got to be willing to be around people unknown. Because here's the thing: if you're on level 5 of life, you don't know no you. How many people you know on level 7? The majority, if you're on level 5, the majority of people around you aren't on level 7 because you got to be at least on level 6 to be around a bunch of people that's on level 7. Like life is in levels like that. So God taught me a long time ago, don't always be on the scene. I learned this in my 20s. I was probably Markel age when I learned this. Don't be in your just don't be on the scene all the time. You have to be ready to go to those unfamiliar places and be around those unfamiliar people because every plug I've ever gotten, man, to get to the next level has always come through somebody new. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I tell you, you got to know energy as well. If you're comfortable in understanding people's energy, you kind of understand and have a confidence of being around new people, because if you're one with the most high and you know what your positive energy is, what righteous spiritual energy is, then you know when you're not around it. You know when you're not around it. But you have to know energy. So I don't fear going anywhere because I know energy. And anywhere I go, man, I bring spirit of the most high with me. The worst thing that could ever happen to me, man, is you could take me out. But guess what? I'm gonna go anyway one day. So you gotta do more than threaten me to be gone. Because I got to go one day anyway. Maybe that's my day. So you got to make sure, man, that you stay in line and in tune with the Most High, man. Because if you don't, you live in this state of fear that keeps you from going to the places you need to go, man, in order to receive some of these blessings. You got to be ready to live free, man. You know what living free in? You're not bound by fear. You're not bound by expectations. You're not bound by reservations. You're not bound by ghetto inclinations. Y'all put God first, keep grinding and growing, and spend the rest of this day making sure you understand if God is trying to bless you, so you can stop blocking. Peace.